Gentlemen, welcome to today's Victorian e-commerce network briefing. $300 billion by 2025, Southeast Asia's internet economy. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today, the peoples of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present, as well as all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders joining us online today. Good afternoon, my name's George Descala from Global Victoria. For your information, Global Victoria is a network of has a network of 22 offices around the world set up to support Victorian companies to engage internationally. Today's briefing is in collaboration with our Southeast Asia office, and we'll be hearing shortly from Lee Howard, the Acting Deputy Commissioner, on the opportunities in Southeast Asia. But before I do, I'd like to acknowledge the co-organiser for today's event, which is the Malaysia Australia Business Council, and also our supporting partners, ASACIO, AIIA, and of course AMBC. For today's order of proceedings, we'll hear from Lee Howard, the Acting Commissioner for Southeast Asia, shortly. That'll be followed by David Wong, who's the Chairman of SENT Global, and of course the Malaysia Australia Business Council Executive, sits on the MABC Executive Committee. We'll be hearing from Hans-Peter Ressel, CEO of Momentum Commerce and also co-founder of Lazada. And then lastly, we'll be hearing from Amy Zhang, who is one of the founders of Amazing Grace. I would now like to pass on to Lee Howard to start off proceedings. Over to you, Lee.
Thank you, George. Hello and welcome everyone. So as George mentioned, my name is Lee Howard and I'm the Acting Commissioner to Southeast Asia for the Victorian Government. I'm based in our Kuala Lumpur office here in Malaysia, so you can see the backdrop behind me of our KL office, which gives you some indication, obviously, that in Malaysia, people have returned to work after COVID. So welcome to this instalment of the Victorian e-commerce network series, and today's event is jointly organised by Global Victoria and the Malaysia Australia Business Council. Now, interestingly and very coincidentally, I presented to the Victorian e-commerce network, I think almost 12 months ago, exactly. And it's fair to say that a lot has happened since then, not just in Southeast Asia, but at the world at large. So what I'm going to do is take a few minutes to provide an update on what's happening in Southeast Asia and set the scene for why e-commerce has become such a key topic for us here in the region. So I would also like to acknowledge our co-organiser and supporting partners for this event. The Malaysia Australia Business Council, or MABC, is the peak body for Australian-linked businesses based in Malaysia. It's a bilateral business chamber supporting its members. And so thank you to the MABC's Chairman, Dinesh Nambiar, and its Executive Director, Linda Tay, who've supported today's session. Our supporting partners are ASOCIO, the ASEAN Ocean Computing Industry Organisation, which is an ICT federation covering 24 economies. And our speaker today, David, is the current chairman of ASOCIO. So thanks to ASOCIO and David. Also to AIIA, who are the National IT Association in Australia and a long-standing collaborator with the Victorian Government. And finally, AMBC Victoria, the state chapter and the sister-based organisation, a sister chamber of the MABC. So it's great to have all of the AMBC members with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, today's speakers are going to provide you with a real cross-section of information about e-commerce in Southeast Asia. And it's a very deliberately constructed webinar, if you like, in terms of what each of our speakers are going to cover. So Hans-Peter Ressel is the CEO of Momentum Commerce and also a co-founder of Lazada, which may be a brand that many of you are familiar with. And he's going to provide us with an overview of Southeast Asia's e-commerce market and the complexities within the region and the differences that we see between developed and developing markets in Southeast Asia. So this is going to include some practical advice for companies that are interested in looking at e-commerce platforms and what they should consider using. We're then going to move to David, who's the chairman of logistics and omnichannel fulfillment company SNT Global. and David will speak about delivery and e-fulfillment options in Southeast Asia. So he's going to drill into some of the specifics for key markets like Singapore and Malaysia, which are often a good place for people to start when they're looking at their e-commerce journey in Southeast Asia. And our final speaker is health food e-commerce entrepreneur, Amy Zheng, and Amy's the co-founder of Amazing Grays, who will speak about her own e-commerce journey and provide some insights on consumer trends and acquiring new customers on e-commerce platforms. We will be taking questions, which you can submit via the Q&A section of the webinar platform. And please note that today's session is being recorded. So thank you for any questions that you want to submit. So as I kick off, what I'd like to do is provide you with a brief snapshot of the Southeast Asia market and talk about the relationship in general. So Southeast Asia's size and continued run of economic growth makes it an increasingly attractive market for Victorian exporters. And it's worth noting that the region already ranks as our second largest trading partner behind China. There are individual countries within Southeast Asia that are quite notable, and Victoria's top 10 export destination countries, 4 of them are actually in Southeast Asia. So for us sitting here in market, Southeast Asia continues to be very much a region of contrast. We've got small consumer markets like Singapore, which is also at the same time very economically developed. And at the other end, I must call it Singapore and Indonesia, the bookends of Southeast Asia, because we've got a very big market of Indonesia with 260 million people and a very large GDP, but a long way to go in terms of its development journey, and then everything in between. So there's a lot of contrasting countries and consumer markets within Southeast Asia. Southeast Asia does consist of 11 countries. 10 of those belong to the ASEAN Economic Community, and ASEAN has helped to harmonise trade practices to a certain extent. But by and large, the countries that make up this region still continue to be culturally, economically, and commercially distinct in the way they go about business. There are 2 big trends which are common across the region, and these are relevant to today's session. So the first trend that I'd like to put out there and set the stage for today's webinar is it's the growing affluence of Southeast Asian consumers. So a lot of people talk about the growing middle class, and yes, that's a very important factor, but it's the affluent class that are really of interest and prime interest to Victorian exporters, because these are the consumers of premium products and produce that come out of a state like Victoria. The second mega trend happening across Southeast Asia is the rate of adoption in technology. There are 360 million internet users across the region, and astoundingly 90% of them connect to the internet primarily through their mobile phones. So we have seen this leap over even from not even desktop or laptop, but straight to mobile. And this is having a massive effect as the digital payment and e-wallet options of the region's leading e-commerce platforms are providing an extremely attractive option to the large number of people that are either unbanked or underbanked. That is, they don't have access to traditional forms of banking or credit, and they may also be working in the informal economy. A quick note on COVID-19, because I think that's a relevant factor for every economy. COVID-19's obviously had an impact on Southeast Asia. It's had an impact on us in terms of certain offices working remotely when COVID-19's at its peak. But I would say that our region has fared better than some. And, you know, the economies in Southeast Asia, they, for better or worse, it's not a region with a lot of safety nets. And so businesses and business people are finding ways to be productive. So for us in Southeast Asia, economies in the region are either open or well on their way to reopening after COVID. In terms of the Victorian government's operations in Southeast Asia, we have 3 offices currently in Southeast Asia. These are in Singapore, Malaysia, and Indonesia. And I'm also very pleased to say that we'll have a 4th office opening in Vietnam later this year. So that'll be based in Ho Chi Minh City. And we're looking forward to that office coming online. Our team in Southeast Asia, and you can see their faces there, they're a great team. And they focus on trade, investment, education, and government activities. And they're working every day to support Victorian businesses and help them to engage internationally. just move forward to this slide. Great. Okay, so the title for today's event comes directly from a report from Google and Temasek. And this is a report that Google and Temasek publish regularly. But what's been happening is, as they've published this report, all of the predictions about the size of the internet economy and e-commerce, the market keeps being above those predictions. So the market's growing faster than the forecast, if you like. So there was a line in the last report published last year which said that the internet economy in Southeast Asia will be worth $300 billion by 2025, so in less than just 5 years. Last year, over 180 million people in Southeast Asia made purchases online. And if anything, the impact of COVID-19 has accelerated the growth in e-commerce as shoppers prefer to make purchases via online channels. And I'd say many of these for the first time as well. There's been this forced shift towards e-commerce, and once people are online and purchasing, that just continues. So whilst the shoppers in Southeast Asia, many of them would have gone into retail stores and supermarkets traditionally, and they'd be very familiar with Victorian products and particularly Victorian premium food, at present what we're seeing is this very, very strong growing demand from high-end consumers looking to access Victorian health, Victorian beauty, and non-fresh food products on e-commerce platforms across the board. So this brings me very nicely to our first speaker for today, who's going to share more information about the e-commerce market in Southeast Asia. Hans-Peter Ressel is the founder and chief executive of Momentum Commerce. Hans and I first got in touch a few months ago and been exchanging notes for a few months about what's happening in the marketplace and with his business. He has a background working in M&A advisory in Europe, and he moved to Malaysia in 2012, where he was one of the co-founders of Lazada, which is now Southeast Asia's largest e-commerce company and online shopping mall. In 2016, Alibaba actually acquired a stake in Lazada and then further increased its stake in 2017 to do a buyout. And that valued the company then at $3 billion, which was one of the largest tech exits in the region that we've seen. During his time at Lazada, Hans-Peter held multiple country and regional roles, including CEO Malaysia and Chief International Officer. So having overseen all functions across the entire value chain and witnessing the company growing to $5 billion with more than 6,000 employees, Hans-Peter is very well placed to provide us with insights on e-commerce in Southeast Asia. After leaving Lazada in 2018, Hans-Peter started his next entrepreneurial journey with Momentum Commerce. And Momentum is actually a consultancy, so it's a solution provider for brands and SMEs offering end-to-end services that create a bridge between brands and consumers across the entire e-commerce value chain. Now, I should declare that due to travel restrictions, Hans-Peter is joining us from Austria. So, HP, we appreciate you making an early start to join us today, and I'll hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Lee. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to talk about e-commerce in Southeast Asia. So the topic is something that really excites me. I think you already talked about some of the Google and Temasek numbers. I'm going to pick up here and show some a little bit more detailed numbers. I think Southeast Asia right now is probably the most exciting region to be in, and being in the B2C e-commerce environment is probably the most exciting opportunity and industry to be in. I think we talked about some numbers of the internet economy. If you look into how that economy splits into the 4 buckets here, just a couple of years ago, online travel was still the biggest vertical within the internet economy. But very quickly in the last couple of years, e-commerce took over and is expected to accelerate even more. You can see that it's on the right side, mostly driven by Indonesia, which is expected to explode over the next couple of years, given its sheer size and market dominance. But other markets are catching up, especially Vietnam, that was maybe in the past and still today is a little bit smaller than other markets, is expected to be catching up very soon. Interesting here, and I showed it later as well, the number of active e-commerce users has increased to 150 million, but with a population of roughly 600 million, there's still a lot of room and still a lot of people who haven't even experienced e-commerce and have not even used a credit card to purchase online. So the growth is fueled by that increase of number of customers, but there are still many people that haven't entered that market yet. So it's interesting what will happen once this happens as well. On the next slide here, maybe some other macro numbers. I think very consistently, do the SCA markets have a higher GDP growth than the rest of the world? Yeah, roughly 2 percentage points more than the rest, and this is expected to continue. I think we talked about the e-commerce base, 150 million users right now, but we also need to look at the demographics of those people. Southeast Asia is has a very young population. And I think I saw another statistics by Facebook, which says that in the next 15 years, 30 or 40% of the global young population, which is people below 30 years, will be based in Southeast Asia. So basically the whole dynamics, the whole demographics will change the dynamics, and we will interact with people who grew up with mobile phones, who grew up shopping online, who grew up as digital natives. And that's something very interesting. There is no hurdle, there is no barrier to convince them to interact with you and to engage with you. They grew up doing that. And so the next decades ahead will give us access to these digital natives. I think talking about Malaysian specifically is where I moved to in 2012. Right now I'm in Austria because of COVID, but all my professional and personal environment is in Malaysia. I think many people outside of Southeast Asia always look at Singapore as their main hub, and the reasons why that would be. But a quick excursus on why Malaysia, why I chose Malaysia, and why also maybe other companies, like at the bottom you see Alibaba chose Malaysia as a regional hub. I think it's a very diverse population, 32 million. When I came to Malaysia, I think it was just 27. So fast growing country, big internet economy, which is growing fast. And it is comprised by basically two big islands, but the big metropolitan areas of Klang Valley, Penang, and Johor Bahru account for 2/3 of the population, account for 2/3 of all the e-commerce volume. So despite it being a big country, you have a lot of concentration in these three metropolitan areas, which allows a quick market entry. Doing business in Malaysia, quite easy, quite simple, low paid up capital requirements, good tax rates, no capital gains tax. And also when you look at the average income, it is, let's say, on a little bit higher than the average of Southeast Asia levels, but you get quality or compared to Singapore, very international education, English-speaking population. And so it's a great place to kind of set up your operations. Alibaba did that. At the bottom, you see that there's a regional hub at KLIA Aeropolis. Alibaba set up the first digital free trade zone there in 2017, the first outside of China, and it's now connecting multiple digital free trade zones globally. Port Klang is one of the biggest container ports, and yeah, the Malaysian airport has the mandate to be bigger than Changi in Singapore over the next 10 to 15 years. When you look into the market environment itself, what you can say is there's a lot of fragmentation, yet concentration on the big players. The big players are Lazada, Shopee, and Zalora. These are the big players in Malaysia. These are the big players in the region. Then you will have many more. You have many more smaller marketplaces, but you can say that the e-commerce business in Malaysia and the e-commerce business in Southeast Asia happens on marketplaces. Yeah, fashion, home and living, FMCG are the biggest categories. Electronics used to be the big focus in the past years, but that shifted a lot to those other categories. And Malaysia is very interesting because internet penetration is very high, credit card penetration is very high. Not many unbanked people, yet a lot of underbanked people. So there's still that growth opportunity within the country. I think cross-border logistics I'm going to leave out because I think David will also talk about this. But just in a nutshell, it's very simple to do cross-border logistics into Malaysia or going out of Malaysia. A lot of supply already comes from China. There's a big Chinese-speaking population in Malaysia, so there's a lot of Taobao and Tmall volumes coming from Alibaba into the country. And then maybe on the right side, I think COVID-19, very strong movement controls in the beginning, but this was loosened up very quickly. And e-commerce saw a spike, a surge in demand. So what you really saw, the big platforms mentioned that from January to April, the volumes doubled. And they stayed on that level. And then because Ramadan and some other festivity seasons continued to happen, those base levels just stayed there and continued to grow. So just within 3 months, it doubled, and it continued to grow ever since. So it's very interesting, which applies for the rest of the region as well. I think next one here, just quickly, the market entry. I think very traditionally, how to enter a market traditionally was through like some offline activities, offline exporters, offline importers. A lot of these business models have changed, and they became or got an e-commerce component. I think right now what we see a lot is already a lot of Chinese supply going to the rest of the world through AliExpress and Tmall Global, etc. I think I work with a lot of Australian brands already that already sell into China. I think those routes have not yet fully opened up to Southeast Asia, so you don't have that Lazada and Shopee kind of cross-border inbound routes from other countries than China. But we at Momentum also are working on making this happen at the bottom. It's very complex to do this because there's a lot of regulation, a lot of diversification, very diverse kind of customs and duties regulation in the region. But it's something that slowly becomes much simpler than it used to be in the past. I think what we see here, I think David will talk about S&T Logistics that also allows for regional fulfillment. And especially in Malaysia, you see a lot of this fulfillment happening that allows you to plug yourself into the rest of the region as well. This is an example of a platform that allows primarily fashion logistics into the rest of the region. You have dedicated logistics solutions from logistics players. You have dedicated logistics solutions from the platforms itself. And it becomes a very interesting place, Malaysia as a hub to centralize and consolidate your stock instead of having stock in multiple markets across the region. So that's also something that is worth exploring here. I think what's also is interesting is that Southeast Asia as a market is interesting, but they're at various stages, whereas Vietnam and Indonesia is still a bit more C2C driven, where you as a brand might not have that brand control, where you as a brand might not have the ability to really control your stores, the engagement level with the consumers. Other markets are much more B2C, Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand, B2C driven, where you as a brand on those marketplace platforms can actually engage with the consumers directly. So here it's important really to pick the right platforms in the right countries. Again, it's a very diverse, fragmented environment, and it's important to choose the right platforms here. On the next slide, I show you a little bit how that looks. You will see Lazada and Shopee everywhere, and then you will see Zaloras in most of the countries, and then you will see a long tail of platforms. If you look at those top 10 platforms in every market, that will probably account for 98% of the e-commerce market in the respective country. Whereas in the Western world or in Australia, there's a lot of brand.com platforms where brands sell themselves in their own platform. Southeast Asia follows a bit more the China model, where you have Tmall and Taobao and JD, where everything is concentrated on a couple of platforms. It's important to kind of have a marketplace platform strategy and not just focus on your own brand.com activities. In order to do that, and I'm almost at the end, in order to do that, obviously you can work with a lot of service providers on the logistics side. You can work with service providers on the digital marketing side, translation agencies, etc. But again, it's a very complex environment, very fragmented. That's just Malaysia landscape. You multiply this by 6 for the 6 biggest markets. It shows you need to have a dedicated team. You need to have a presence here, and you need to basically commit to making a market entry in the region. One alternative, as the only slide about myself and ourselves, is to work with service providers that do that for you. Momentum is a company like that helps you do the logistics, the marketing, customer service, and all the branding strategy on those marketplaces, as well as your brand.com platforms in this region. We can do that for you. We have big brands here in Malaysia global brands that we represent, and where they basically outsource the e-commerce business to us. Lastly, to also show how big that can be, and that this region and e-commerce in this region is not a place to be missed out. I think here you see some numbers on those big festivities, 11/11 and 12/12. Ronaldo is actually a brand ambassador for Shopee. And you see some of these amazing numbers they were achieving during 12/12. In the middle, you see 11/11 numbers from Lazada. Dua Lipa, a big famous singer, was singing at the Lazada birthday party. If you don't know Dua Lipa, ask your kids; they will know her. And Zalora is having big fashion events with very famous celebrities. So e-commerce in Southeast Asia becomes really a lifestyle. It becomes a very entertaining industry, and it's the right time to be part of this. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks, HP. That was good, and I look forward to coming back to you with some questions from our audience. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker today is a very distinguished individual. David Wong has more than 35 years of experience in IT, e-commerce and logistics. 20 years ago, David founded a company called S&T Global, where he's currently the executive chairman. And S&T's core business is in the area of lead logistics, warehousing, cross-border fulfillment, and omnichannel fulfillment services, which David's going to explain to us more about that. So S&T is a very notable company here in Southeast Asia and Malaysia in particular, and it's a company that's known to have won several awards for the work that it's been doing. David himself has also been recognised as Outsourcing Leader of the Year by Outsourcing Malaysia, and the CEO Excellent Award by the Malaysia Retail Chain Association. Now, amongst his many hats that he wears, and relevant to today's discussion, David is currently the chairman of Associo, one of our supporting partners, and he's also an executive committee member of the Malaysia Australia Business Council. David, I now invite you to give your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, George, for the introduction. Yeah, hello everyone. For a start, I must say I miss Australia. I haven't been there for a year, and that's I do that every year. I'm proud that we are able to co-organize this event on behalf of MABC. I want to thank Global Victoria for that as well, and also all my members from Associo, over 24 economies in Asia Pacific. Thank you for their support as well. Yeah, today I'm going to share a little bit more about fulfillment and logistics in Southeast Asia. I think HP has covered very well on the multi-channel and on the channel and the platforms to go into the market. I'm trying to get control of I have a bit of problem on the keyboard to flip the slides. Can someone help me with that? Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, as Lee was introducing S&T, we were established back in 2005. My background, I'm 20 years in IT and about 15 years in logistics and e-commerce. In fact, I got into e-commerce a little bit too early, and it is only in the recent years that the e-commerce has really picked up, and that's how I got into the logistics again. Now, we are based in Malaysia and Singapore, and the omni-channel fulfillment is a very key capability to support what's going on right now in the market. Because this logistics for most of the brands are not in the form of just B2C, but it's also in the form of B2B. So we handle both B2B and B2C channel, and primarily in the area of retail, e-commerce, FMCG, pharmacies, beauty and cosmetics. About 40% of these products are from overseas, and 60% are from domestic. And I think one of the key things is we're very technology focused, right? Which is essential for delivery of the e-commerce logistics, especially to the doorstep. I'm trying to change the slides. Sorry about that. The slide doesn't change. Can someone help me to change the slides? Yeah. So in the omni-channel experience, most of the players in the e-commerce area and also logistics are integrating both their online, offline logistics and data, right, across the whole single value chain. And that's how Jack Ma defined it as new retail. Now, if you look at the bottom part on the estimated new retail market, primarily in Southeast Asia, only about less than 10% of the players are really on the pure online platform. And about 90% of them are still offline. But with the recent pandemic crisis and so forth, many of the offline and B2B player has now embarked on the online journey. And that's marked by the 30% yellow quadrant, right, in the boxes below. So that 30% combined with the 15% pure online, that is almost about half of the Southeast Asian market that will shift their focus into a lot of online activity, right? And to do that, it's important and essential that the logistics are in place to be able to support this growth, right? Okay, next. So in the omni-channel fulfillment, the experience to the consumer has to be seamless. Whether they are buying a product from online or offline, they need to have a very transparent and seamless experience in receiving the goods, right? So a good fulfillment capability should be able to deliver that, right? For example, one may be able to shop online and pick up a product offline, or buy something online and return a product offline into any of the collection points, right? Which is getting very popular in this part of the world as well. Or suppliers may be able to have a platform that goes directly to consumer, and the fulfillment hub must be able to support that as well. Or if a consumer walks into a store and unable to secure a product that they want, they should be able to secure that product the next day from the same store, because the same SKU probably would have been delivered from another store to the store that they were at. So such experience is important, and consumers are getting more and more demanding, and these are things that they're looking forward to. So to do fulfillment, we have to be able to fulfill such requirement or such demand. Okay, next. This slide has been covered quite extensively just now by Lee and also HP, where the affluent of the consumers in this region, right now they are very much online. They have the ways to pay. There are many mechanisms to make online payment via wallets and also the credit cards and so forth. Although there are still a small portion of it unbanked or underbanked, as what Hans has described. But generally, the pace for online payment has picked up a lot, and there are also a couple of players that are covering the region on the online payment rather than just country specific. But I think one important thing that's heavily tied to logistics is the high de minimis, right? The de minimis is the threshold for importations of products into the country, where one would be able to consume the product without paying a duty or tax. So I'll go into the next slide to describe a bit more on that. Yeah. Now, if you look at the de minimis in most of the countries in Asia, I think Australia is probably one of the highest, which is why you also have a very significant percentage of cross-border sales. Then we have Singapore, US, Malaysia. So these are generally high threshold, and then followed by some of the other countries. Now, this de minimis, as I said, allows the products to enter to the country without incurring any duty or taxes. But there are also other rules that we have to abide by, you know, especially duty and taxes. Sometimes does apply to some regulated products. So not everything that goes below this threshold enjoys a free duty and tax, right? Okay, next. For example, in India, the de minimis in India is almost zero, but Australia is 942. And the payment method in India or Indonesia or some of these developing countries in Southeast Asia, there's a high percentage of delivery that still requires cash on delivery. So this is something to consider as when we do a last mile delivery. Unlike Australia, where most of the payment are already done online, right? And also the different market has different sizes and also different geographic. Some are very remote, some are like Indonesia and Philippines. These are island-based type of nations. So the last mile is also a tricky part. And so these are all considerations that we need to put together as we enter into the market. Yeah. Can move to the next slide. Yes, this is a screenshot of all the de minimis in the different country. Indonesia de minimis value is about $75, but recently it has been reduced to $3 from January 1st onwards. Now, but having said that, why did some of these countries lower their de minimis? It's because they attempt to level the playing field because between the local and also the foreign importers. Other reasons that they cite would be to defend against counterfeit products, because there has also been a lot of counterfeit or fake products that comes from cross-border. So some of these customs have taken more precautions and measures to ensure that the border are tighter, in order to not let some of these products into the country, right? Oops, what happened? Yeah. So recently, Indonesia has lowered the. Can I have the slide before this? Yeah. No. Sorry for the technical issue here. Yeah. So recently, Indonesia, as I said, have lowered the tax to $3. The rest of the country, the de minimis value is still about the same. But having said that, the duty for Indonesia has also been lowered from 40% down to 20% across the board. So if you are selling higher value products, beauty products, garments and things like that into Indonesia, then you'll be enjoying that part of the savings because you're only paying 20% instead of 40% tax right now, right? Otherwise, for those products that is less than $75, the overall duty and tax incurred will be still high. For Malaysia, it's 500 ringgit. There are also talks that this may move up to about 800 ringgit, and the rest have been fairly stable. Yeah. Okay, next slide, please. This is another comparison between if you add up the tax duty of entry of a product into any one of this country, right? So the landed cost would need to be computed very carefully because it has a direct impact to your sales. So for example, $100 dress that has been imported into Indonesia will cost you $44 at the end of the day. And if it's Malaysia, it's $6, right? So there is a big difference there. And this is one major consideration if depending on your nature of products, if you want to export to this country, for you to target, right? A careful study has to be done here. Okay, next. Now, how do you fulfill to Southeast Asia, right? Now, if the current situation is which I think everyone knows that there has been very limited flights, right? During the MCO, there's hardly any flight, but today, between countries to country, at least they have increased to about 3 to 4 flights a day. Now, the border has always been open. The products has always been free to move, right? But it is because of the mid-mile constraint, in this case, the flights, that has caused the slowdown, the speed, as well as the reachability of these products to the customer. So they, in order to, but as I said, the situation has improved from month to month right now as the region recovers. For delivery in Malaysia, Singapore, so far has been very almost back to normal, I would say. But in some countries which are designated as red zone and things like that, we still experiencing a lot of slowdown. So there are two ways basically to fulfill to this region. One is a cross-border fulfillment, where basically you set up a regional hub and you deliver from there, right? There are many examples of such regional hub. A lot of marketplaces like Zalora, Lazada, and Shopee, they all have regional hubs. And they select one or two countries and they fulfill from there. But again, if your product has reached a certain level of maturity where you have volume and we have manageable SKU, then you may want to consider localized fulfillment. And localized fulfillment, basically, you'll be able to set up basically local channels in each one of these countries or countries that is where where business makes the most sense to you. Okay, move on. So my next slide basically shows the differences between cross-border and localized fulfillment. There are pros and cons on the different method, right? On the cross-border fulfillment, of course, there's the labor and the land cost saving via centralized strategy, because all you need is just one regional hub. And Malaysia, for example, is one very natural regional hub, as what Hans has shared earlier, because of the strategic location it's in and also the cost competitiveness it has. There's no heavy upfront investment. There's less inventory risk because everything is centralized. There are not too many logistics partners involved. Now, some of the partners who owns the freighter service, they have a bit of advantage even during this crisis, right? Because they are able to they own the planes and they're able to fly, right? Whereas some of the others who depend on such flights, they are constrained. And then you save on tax, duty, and VAT if your orders are below the de minimis. But for localized fulfillment, the advantage is the goods can be delivered in a much shorter time, and that makes the customers really happy because that is something that is the biggest issue right now. And also the lower transportation costs because it's localized already. And also beware some of the countries, as I said, the method of payment is very much cash on delivery. So again, we have to look at that aspect of that factor as well if we consider last mile. Okay, next slide. Now, again, in B2C business, you will see a lot of fluctuation. So I would say this has a lot of impact on logistics because it is during these campaigns, like the Black Friday, like 11/11, like the 12/12, and like the like a 10/10 or Cyber Monday, you need to budget a little bit more time, because even pre-MCO, even for years, there has been hiccups along the whole supply chain. So these were bound to happen again. And the next 3 months is going to be a fair bit of nightmare. I see that it's going to the volume is going to again burst the roof. Because even now, as whatever fulfillment that we are doing is already at a higher level than pre-MCO because everybody have shifted to B2C purchases. So I think we really need to plan ahead when participating in these campaigns and how you're going to fulfill, right? Whether you're going to use a centralized approach or localized approach, all this has to be pre-planned, right? Carefully. Okay, next slide. My next slides will show you some of the example of hubs that has been set up to support the Southeast Asia region. For example, Zalora has set up a regional hub in Malaysia that supports about 6 countries in Southeast Asia, all the way up to Taiwan, Hong Kong, Philippines, Indonesia, Singapore, and Malaysia. And I think the other aspect is we got to be able to handle the returns as well, because in B2C, basically, especially apparels and some of the other items, the return rates are high. So how do you manage that across border? So that is also another important consideration. Okay, so these are some of the regional hubs. And coming to my last slide. Basically, I just want to sum up that when we enter into Southeast Asia, basically there are a couple of business models, a B2B, where we can just appoint a distributor to look after the whole market, or B2B2C, where you can work with a platform. So there's a B to B, because the B is a platform, and that platform will take it to the C, which is the consumer. Or you can do a direct approach of B to C, where you have your own brand.com that's set up in Australia and people logging in, buying, and you do a cross-border delivery straight on, right? So these are different models that one will have to consider seriously. And also target which country, customer segment, what is the logistics capability in each one of these countries? Are you able to deliver your goods on time? Because some of the regulated products like beauty, cosmetics, and also food, all these may require permits and certifications. So we have to make sure that all these certifications and permits are attained before you enter into the market. The fulfillment strategy, again, I already covered, cross-border versus centralized and multi-location. And also digital strategy, which I have not touched on earlier. The digital strategy is a capability to provide you the end-to-end omnichannel experience. Because at the end of the day, your platform may be the best, but when it comes to providing the user experience, it has to API into a very strong logistics platform to be able to give you all the data, the visibility, right, of the products as it reach the customer. So that visibility and that API is important, and that's something that, for example, in S&T, we pay a lot of attention to come up with analytics and so forth to provide to the brand.com to be able to monitor this carefully. Okay, I think that's for now. Thank you very much for hearing out. Yeah, and this is my email. Anything you can contact. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, David. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard from the service providers, and now it's time to hear from someone who's taken all of that and put it into practice. So our third and final speaker for today is Amy Zheng. Amy was born in Shanghai, but she grew up in Australia's cultural capital of Melbourne, where she made the very astute decision to obtain a degree from Monash University. Amy moved to Malaysia in 2011 to work with the Boston Consulting Group, and little did she know at the time that she was going to build her own business here in Malaysia. So having spent half of her career working for the public sector and NGOs, in the other half as a corporate warrior, Amy has said that it was time to do something big, and her own business called Amazing Grays was born. So today, Amazing Grays has grown to become a home pantry brand across the region, with a strong social mission, not only to help people live healthier lives, but also to give back to society by working with people from disadvantaged backgrounds. Amy's passionate about building a world-class consumer brand, helping people live healthier and meaningful lives, and building young women to become future leaders. So to hear about Amy's e-commerce journey, I now welcome her to give her presentation. Thank you. Amy, you're just on mute. If you want to go off mute.
Perfect. Okay, can everyone hear me? Thanks, Lee, for the great introduction. So hi, everyone. My name is Amy, and I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Amazing Grays. So as Lee mentioned, I'm Melburnian. I come from Victoria. I left Australia around 15 years ago to pursue my university studies abroad. And then I ended up staying abroad and never came back. So Malaysia, I've been in Malaysia for 10 years now, just over 10 years. I came to Kuala Lumpur for work with BCG. I met my other half here, and then I decided to stay. So that's been a great journey so far. So I wanted to share a little bit about my journey with Amazing Grays. I'm just going to the next slide. Perfect. Sorry, just want to go to the previous slide. Having some technology challenges here. Can someone help me go to the previous slide? Yeah, and to the first slide, if that's okay. Thank you. And the previous one before that. Thank you very much. So as you can see, these are two of my co-founders. These girls are both Malaysian. So around 5 years ago, we looked at the Southeast Asian market starting from Malaysia. We realized there's a growing demand for healthy food options. In fact, health overall has become a major issue because Malaysia has one of the highest obesity rates in the region. I think 1 in 2 adults, like 50% of adult population is either overweight or obese. And the options, there's a lot of imported products from the US, Australia, UK, but people don't really know about it, and there's not a lot of marketing done locally. So we decided to make our own healthy food products. And our first product was actually granola and nut mixes. So I'll just go to the next slide. Perfect. Great. So currently we started off making granola, and that seems to be a really strange product to make in Malaysia because it's not the usual breakfast option, or it's not a usual food option for Malaysians. So for us, we had to really educate the market. We had to tell them why is oats good for them, and how do they eat it. What we did do is we infused a lot of local flavors as well in ingredients. So people didn't know granola, but they knew coconut, or they knew pandan, or they knew gula melaka. So what we did was we took ingredients that were healthier for you, but also integrated with local flavors, and then we replicated the same model for nuts. So we, instead of giving people plain nuts, we actually flavored our nut mixes with local flavors. Then we branched out to nut butters like almond butter, cashew butter, and hazelnut, and now we've also got peanut butter. Goodness Balls is our oatmeal range, and we recently started making brownie chips in the form of a healthy snack as well. So over the past 5 years, we've seen a general excitement and growth for healthier food options in the region, and we just kept growing our product range. And we make most of our products in-house. So we do R&D, manufacturing, distribution, and marketing all in one. And our team has grown from 3 people, three women in the beginning, to 100 people at the moment. And we have around 5 different offices across Malaysia and Singapore. So on this slide, I think what's really exciting for us is the growth of our online channel. So we've always been e-commerce first. Since the very beginning of Amazing Grace, I've set up our first Shopify store, and we set up our own Facebook account, Instagram account, and we started selling online. And we've done a lot of changes to our online store since then. I think this is probably the 4th reiteration, because we realize how powerful it is to have a great website, to have really good user experience. And so far, I think our online channel is more than half of our total sales. So we have offline as well. We work very closely with supermarkets in the region, but our online store has consistently been our strongest sales channel. It generates, our own website generates 65% of our total online revenue. Especially recently, we've seen a higher conversion rate. So on average, our conversion rate has been 5%, which is really great for an e-commerce store, especially with so much competition around. And our average basket size so far has been about 40 Aussie dollars. So that's not bad, considering the logistics cost and the last mile fulfillment cost is really quite affordable. And we do see repeat buyers. Over 30% of our customers come back and buy, and so your average lifetime of your customers is much higher. And just to say, I think we really think about, we've really built a digital strategy over the years as well. So while, in the first couple of years, we would just post on Facebook or Instagram and hope we get a sale. Now I think we have a whole team of around 10 people. So that team of 10 are consistently thinking about how to build awareness for our products. So, we understand that most people in the market have never heard about us because we're such a small brand at the moment, but there is clear kind of intention to buy healthier products. So yeah, our team is constantly creating new videos, photos, posts, engaging with influencers, emailing people, driving people to our website to create that awareness of our products. So this is an example of an unboxing video on the left. We noticed that people in Malaysia and Singapore really like to see what's in your products, and so people they never get tired of seeing your products being opened and taken out and shown around what's opened up and poured into a bowl or whatnot. So that's been a really interesting find for us. So unboxing is great, and then once people have engaged with your post in some way or your ads in some way, our strategy has always been to get them to come to our website, sign up for a newsletter, and usually we give them some incentive to do it. So, perhaps it's free delivery upon their first order, perhaps it's a free gift. And people here really don't like to pay for delivery. So that's one tip I have is, free delivery has always been one of our best promotions. You don't even have to give a discount, but you can actually just offer free delivery, because then people feel like, the cost of getting this product is lowered, and it gives them extra incentive to try it. So assume that they've clicked on an ad, they've gone to your website, they've signed up for a newsletter. This is a time where you can retarget them. So you can either retarget them through Google, Facebook or Instagram, or you can actually email them with upcoming promotions or exciting product offerings if they've given you their emails. And I think in Southeast Asia, people are still quite good about it. I've noticed that Australian consumers are more reluctant to give you their emails, but here people are like, sure, happy to see what you have to say. So so assume they do make a purchase. We do follow up with them quite closely to get them to make a repurchase, retain them as a returning customer, because you've spent all this effort getting them to buy something from you. So so it's an ongoing cycle, and we really think about our marketing efforts across these four spectrums of awareness to purchase, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. So we started our journey on these marketplaces, as you've just heard from Hans Paul and Chris as well, about the marketplaces. So I think 5 years ago, we still thought our own website should be the main place in which we're getting new customers and retaining customers. And then I think about 2-3 years ago, we said maybe we should really start investing more time and effort on these marketplaces. And as you can see, we actually have now dedicated account managers that works with Lazada and Shopee in Malaysia and Singapore, because it's a lot of work. You really want to participate in all the relevant campaigns that they have, and there's always a campaign going on. So in Asia, it's a big deal every month when there's a big sales day. It's not just 11/11, it's not just 12/12 anymore. What we're dealing with is 9/9, 10/10, 8/8, and there's snack campaigns, there's health weeks, there's Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, Chinese New Year, Raya. There is literally something going on every week, and if you're not paying attention, you will miss out. And so with this kind of mindset and resources, we've managed to become one of the top cereal categories as a local company. And as you can see, our competitors are really the huge multinationals like Starbucks, Nestle, KitKat, and Tesco. So so it's not too bad of a result, I think. Given that we're really artisanal, we're really one of the small up and coming local brands. Sorry, can I go back a slide? Thank you. So as you can see, these are some of our product listings on Shopee and Lazada. And the cool thing on Shopee, for example, is you can actually see how many products has been sold. And I think this gets updated monthly, so it's a ongoing evaluation, and customers can see it, and you can see your competitors' rates as well. So you're always kind of measuring yourself against other competitors, and it's exciting to see these numbers go up. And I think the difference between e-commerce in Asia and e-commerce in Australia is that people really want to see product information, they want to see colors, they want to see a lot of excitement. So there's always a lot of information given to consumers about your products, and you want to really have the design and and as you can see, a lot of our products have multiple colors and information below the products to show people what it is, to show people what the grammage is, to show people if there's a discount or a promotion ongoing. So yeah, I think that's a really huge difference I've noticed in this part of the world, is that you really got to invest in giving these kind of information and in making sure your products look appealing to the local market and the up and coming millennial group here. Last but not least, I think I can't stop emphasizing the importance of having a strong marketing team and branding in these markets. I think a lot of potentially overseas brands, they come in thinking that, look, I just have to list my products onto these platforms and I will get sales. But I do think it's really important to build your branding, to engage with consumers in these markets, because they're really paying attention. And so this is an example of some of our Instagram lives that we've done, especially during the COVID period. So we would tell people about how to enjoy our products. We would have coffee chats about wellness. We will work with a lot of partners to talk about their products, or even when people were worried about getting laid off, we had a session all with our HR answering consumers' concerns about what's going to happen to people. We have online workouts for our customers. So you really do want to have some kind of marketing presence and build your brand and have a way to talk to your customers, rather than just listing your products on a platform and expecting sales to come through, because it's not going to come through. It's a multi-channel effort. You want to have someone taking care of your Facebook, someone taking care of your Instagram account, someone who's actively answering people's questions on the Zara Shopee or your own website. And so that consumers can actually realize, oh, this brand cares about me and they really want to solve my problems in this market. So so that would be my last piece of advice is, do think carefully about which markets you want to enter. And once you enter it, do plan on investing on marketing, on branding, on building connections with consumers here. Great, and I'm looking forward to getting some of your questions. Thanks, Lee.
Excellent. That was fantastic, Amy. Thank you for that. And thank you to all of our speakers, HP, David and Amy, for their presentations. I'm sure if we weren't living in a virtual world, there'd be a good round of applause right now for everyone who's just given their presentation. So we're going to go into a Q&A, and I think we've got capacity to allocate some more time to Q&A. So don't be concerned if you haven't put in a question yet, feel free to do so. To answer one question that's been asked, a copy of all of the presenter slides will be made available later today. So not a problem for any viewers to get a copy of that. I would like to kick off with a question to the same question to each of the panel members, which is obviously relating. 2020 has been a forced adoption, if you like, for e-commerce across the region. But one thing I'm noticing is that different countries and the platforms in different countries sort of have a different appetite for the product range that they're stocking. So specifically, I've seen in Indonesia almost this leap beyond traditional consumer goods to even fresh produce or very large consumer items, transacting for motor vehicles and things like that as well. So the question I'd like to put to the panel members, and I'll start with you, HP, what trends have you seen in the utilisation of e-commerce in 2020? And do you think the demand of products is broadening to include new areas of interest? And if so, what are they?
I think it is a mix of trying out opportunistically other categories and see if it works, and then trying to solve a very specific need, which could be coming from the merchants or the brands or the government. And 2020 has shown like a lot of creativity to try new things and see what works. A very nice example here is in Malaysia. I think Lazada started to sell fresh produce. They started to sell fresh tiger prawns through a cooking show by a famous chef that was streamed on the Lazada app, and then they sold out thousands of kg of fresh tiger prawns, and that was not happening before COVID and before the MCO, where people were actually able to go to the supermarket easily and buy fresh produce themselves. And then there was also in the Cameron Highlands, where there's a lot of fresh salad and fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. People couldn't sell their products there in Malaysia, so they used Lazada and listed their products on Lazada to sell their perishable fresh veggies, salads, and fruits. And suddenly that category was starting to boom and was starting to get incubated, which has not happened before. So I think every festivity, every year, every crisis sees new things popping up. But I think definitely this year, it's all about groceries. It's all about fresh produce. It's all about kind of being restricted to shop the daily necessities, but using e-commerce as a channel to, or as a source to then actually do that. And I think this is something that has been very, very similar in other Southeast Asian markets, and it's definitely the right timing. If you want to hit it big and you are in those categories, then it's the right time to do it.
Okay, thank you, David. Are you seeing a broadening in terms of the areas of products being listed online?
Yeah, from the fulfillment point, I can share with you that some of the very popular products includes beauty and cosmetics, right? Health-related products, kitchenwares, electrical products, and this products has been, if you talk about the period post-MCO, is even in larger volume than pre-MCO, right? And as far as, but they are also slowed down in lifestyle products, like some of the apparels, shoes. But baby products is catching on, right? Maybe people are spending more time at home and with the kids, and so the baby products are also catching up pretty well as well. So I think the products generally are the same, but there are more and more brands coming on board, right? And these brands are from overseas. I see a lot of overseas brands all coming into the market as well, and also a lot of China brand, right? Generally, at least about 40% of those sales on the marketplace or brand.com are from China or Japan or Korea. So I hope to see more from Australia soon. Yeah.
Thanks, Amy. What about for you? Has the product range expanded at all across in the last 6 months?
Yeah, so during MCO we started selling, regular oats, raw ingredients like chia seeds, almonds. So people were really kind of to buy everything. But I mean, since the end of the strict lockdown in Malaysia and Singapore, we've seen a more return to normal demand. But I mean, definitely heard a lot of brands that I know of that are like running out of toothpaste. So apparently toothpaste is a hot item these days. A lot of beauty products like mentioned already. So yeah, I think everything is coming online. So it's a broadening of categories.
Okay, thanks, Amy. I'll stay with you. Can I ask you a question about payment options? So do you see, in terms of, because you're operating your store online, you said the majority of sales are coming through your own website. So I'm interested in, we talk a lot about digital payment options, but e-wallets as being an attractive thing for consumers in the marketplace. So do you see any resistance around the use of credit cards, or is that changed at all in your opinion?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of different payment players, and we tried out different options. I think for every market, you've just got to have at least 3 to 4 different payment providers. So the guys, there's local payment providers that people can connect their debit cards to. There's international players like Braintree or Stripe that kind of does all the credit cards, especially international credit cards. And then there's also PayPal, and now you have GrabPay and all the super wallets and e-wallets happening. We haven't seen any resistance, but some good news to share is these e-wallets have a lot of resources, and they really want people to use it. So they're funding a lot of promotions. So currently, for example, GrabPay has a 31% discount on products that they're funding entirely if people are using GrabPay to pay. And that's a lot of discount. Obviously, we don't really want to fully tell people we're running this discount because we're not a discount brand, but I can see how that can be attractive to a lot of brands.
Got it. Thanks. HP, I'll put the same question to you. Have you seen a shift there in terms of payment options, a trend, and just in terms of our audience, what are the most popular payment options on e-commerce platforms?
So I think in Malaysia, especially, credit card is still the preferred option. As Amy mentioned, like these GrabPays and these other wallets from certain companies are picking up fast, driven by a big discount structure, and that discount structure helps them in kind of, some of them are closed wallets, some of them are open loop wallets. So it really helps the penetration. I think it's different by country. I think in Vietnam and Indonesia, you still see a lot of cash on delivery being the dominant payment method. So I think for every country, there's like a different balance between the payment methods. In the more, let's call them already more advanced countries, higher credit card, higher internet penetration rate, definitely credit card and the wallets are the go-to payment methods. In those countries where credit card penetration is a bit lower, maybe there's a little bit of a trust issue still with online payments. People still prefer cash on delivery or online banking.
Okay, thank you. David, I'll put a question to you. I'm interested in when you spoke about the options, and you seem to advocate, cross-border. You did the pros and cons. And when I think of cross-border, I also think about options around drop shipping versus going in. A lot of companies are exporting with their traditional importers, and they're talking about logistics partners who do pallet delivery to retailers rather than, individual consumer-sized products. So the question I've got for you is, what advice would you give to, say, a company that's selling a consumer item from Melbourne or regional Victoria, and they're looking to sell products into Southeast Asia? Do you think there's a plan A or a preferred logistics path for getting products into the hands of consumers?
Yeah, I think first of all, it depends on which stage are they on, right? As far as their penetration into the market. If they are at the early stage, they may just want to try to do a B2C, a cross-border model and ship it from Australia, or just pick a hub somewhere in Southeast Asia like KL and do it from there. But for those players who are already a little bit more mature in some of this market, then, and depending on the type of products, for example, if the products are lesser in SKU, is highly manageable, or is bulky, then some of these products you may just want to localize, right? set up a local fulfillment in some of these countries and do it from there. But generally, the single regional hub or one or two of these single regional hubs to be able to support the Southeast Asia market is very practical and it's workable. So for those who are ready, they can look at that option and set that up, because it is a lot less complex than trying to manage a fulfillment hub in every country, right? So, and this has been proven by some of the marketplace and platforms and also the brand.com, where they have a single regional hub that support all their market in Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Got it. David, I'll stay with you. I'm interested in the challenges that companies sometimes face when they already have an established traditional channel into market, particularly if they're working with an importer. So what advice would you have for a brand with a traditional presence when they're moving into e-commerce? Is it about working with the importer for them to actually be online and there's conflict around official stores and things like that? Or is it about having a completely distinct channel? Have you seen that, and how do companies navigate it? And HP, I'll come to you with the same question after that.
Yeah, I think this is very much a business decision, right? By the supplier or the brand.com, whether they are comfortable with the local player and whether the local player has the capability to market digitally via the platforms. And if not, I also seen brand.com that take their own initiative to offer their products online and run it on their own, and leaving the local distributor to deal with the B2B. But generally, at the end of the day, I think the local knowledge is important, you know. Like what Amy was sharing. I mean, there are so many campaigns and so many activities. So you really need somebody on the ground, right, to be able to work very, very closely with the platforms. It's not easy to do that on a remote basis, right? Because the interaction with the marketplace and with the marketeers and with the local channels are heavy, you know. So I would encourage one to be able to find a strong local partner, not just on the sales channel, but as well as on fulfillment, right? Because I'm in fulfillment businesses, I think that's important. And to be able to, and I think that's more effective in the long term, right? Rather than trying to run the business on a remote basis, especially for consumer products and the type of fresh products and so forth from Australia. Yeah.
Excellent. HP, any of you on the same question?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm going back to the very diverse region. It's Southeast. You might look at it. You might look at Southeast Asia as a region geographically, but engaging with the consumer audience, you have to approach it from a different way. It's just so diverse that you cannot just engage with the consumers in all the countries in the same way. And you will need local support. Like the market entry can happen through some sort of cross-border model. But once you want to start engaging with the consumers better, you want to have some after-sales service. You want to really drive engagement and loyalty with your brand. You got to be perceived as a local brand. Otherwise, it's going to get tough. And even if you look at how, let's say, Lazada or Shopee as companies are structured, of course, they have a matrix organization, so they have regional kind of responsibilities and then country responsibilities. But in most cases, when it comes to category management, when it comes to marketing, these are all locally managed functions that add much more value to the brand than having some sort of headquarters in Singapore and trying to do marketing and try to market your brand in Thailand. That's not going to work, and that's when you start to see like limitations in your growth. So kind of a regional centralized play can work in certain verticals, for example, logistics, where you have an advantage if everything is centralized, but then you need to think about which pieces of the value chain need to have a decentralized and localized approach. And that usually is the marketing, the category management, everything around products and local engagement has to be decentralized in the markets.
Great, thank you. I'd like to ask a few questions about consumers in Southeast Asia and talk about that. So, Amy, for you, you started out, you're a brand in a category that I would describe as niche in this market, probably niche because not just say cereals, but healthy ones, and accentuating that effort in a meaningful sense and a real sense. So how did you differentiate yourself from established competitors when you started out, both from a pricing point of view, but also in terms of having people know that this product that was online and had, a nice picture was actually a quality product when they got it home and ate it?
Yeah. So the consumers in Malaysia, at least where we first started, is very diverse, and there's so many different groups, right? So you don't want to be super greedy and wanting to capture everybody. And for us, we wanted to focus on urban English-speaking females between the age of 25 to 45, which is an obvious group for a lot of health and consumer products out there, because they're the decision makers for household purchases. And so, we kind of just looked at where they shop and how they consume media, and where they go to work out, and where do they go to buy the groceries, and we started showing up there. So that was the way that we reached out to that target market. But for those who don't know the country well, there is a big urban and rural divide. There's a Chinese community, there's a Malay community, there's an Indian community, and more. And within each ethnic group, there's more differences in socioeconomic classes. So it's very difficult to try to capture the whole market. So for us, we said we're going to be a premium product. We're going to be focusing on quality. All our communication is done in English. And so we do kind of attract that kind of target market. And as we've gotten bigger, we can actually start identifying more groups and start to target different ethnic groups or different languages or different socioeconomic classes. But you do want to have a niche to stake out at the very beginning that you can be known for.
Okay, great. And what were those early days like? I mean, were people buying, or were there very quiet times? How did you get that traction at the beginning?
Yeah, so back in the days when there was still a lot of markets, weekend markets, we actually attended a lot of markets in malls, in common areas. And so we started talking to people about our products. And obviously, we don't have that luxury now because there's no sampling, no food sampling in public. We also went to a lot of gyms. We also did a lot of events at corporate. So there was a lot of one-to-one word of mouth kind of build up of our branding and our products. And I think if we had started off completely spending money on Facebook or Google, it would have been very, very expensive. So so I think you do need a digital strategy, but you can't forget to have an offline community grassroots strategy to impact people as well.
Okay, great. And Amy, I'll stay with you, and this will be our final question, which I'll put to all of the panelists. I'm sure there's a lot of people online who are interested in the perceptions of Victorian and Australian products generally to the Southeast Asian consumer. So how does this compare with the products that are coming from other markets such as Japan, Korea and Western Europe, where quality is also being accentuated, but there might be a different mindset or they might be received differently from Southeast Asian consumers. So how do you think Southeast Asian consumers view Victorian and Australian products, and what are they looking for to see more of online? Amy, do you have a view on that?
Okay, so very few Australian companies have done good marketing in Malaysia and Singapore, at least in the countries that I'm familiar with, right? Most of the brands have just come in, picked a distributor and let the distributor do everything, and they stop there. They don't go in deeper. And I think at this stage, I would advise to actually think about it differently and start really building your marketing branding strategy in these markets as well. Yes. But in terms of the perception to Australian products, it's still very much like, Australian products are great where it is locally sourced or locally made. So, people tend to perceive dairy products or oats or certain food or cosmetic product to be more superior from Australia, not because they're particularly great at branding, but because it's from a local produce that Malaysia you can't find in Asia. So there's more of this innate differentiation as opposed to this is a great product a great brand that we need to buy.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
HP, turn the question to you. What do you think of the perceptions of Victorian and Australian products in the minds of Southeast Asian consumers?
I think to echo what Amy said, I think it's quality for sure is right on top there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the brands will then sell. And I think what I've not only with Australian brands but also with other brands from other markets that are market leaders in their home country, what I've experienced is that doesn't mean anything, and it doesn't mean that you're necessarily successful in Malaysia or Southeast Asia. Most successful brands that come from abroad into this part of the world think it will sell by itself because of their great reputation in their home market. But then you have to think of how many people have actually traveled to that market and know about the quality of those products. And then usually it's a very small share of the population. And I would even go to the extent that the more successful some local brands are in their home markets, the more almost lazy they become. They become lazy then to put in the same effort to be successful in the new markets. And that would be a recipe for failure. I have seen personally how some multi-billion-dollar Chinese brands that enter Malaysia, where you have a very big Chinese-speaking population, failed completely because they thought it will sell by itself because they're multi-billion-dollar brands in China, but no one knew them outside. And then it was very clear that local engagement, local marketing activation initiatives, local branding, and kind of spending time to understand the local audience and how to engage with them becomes very important and stays important and will have to kind of be redone. And you cannot just rely on your merits of having it done in your own markets, but you have to do it again for every other new market. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And David, I was very keen to give the last word to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was about to say that one of my favorite thing that I do in Australia is the shopping in the supermarket, because it has almost everything that I want. But I wish the same experience applies to here, right? Because I felt that there are many brands in Australia has a lot of great opportunity in this part of the world. Also, primarily, a lot of the students that has gone for higher education, they're all from Australia, Malaysia is one of and Singapore, right? These countries send a lot of students over to Australia and they come back, the brand or the experience stick in their mind, but they could not get the products here. So I think this is opportune time for these brands. And I'm also getting a lot of inquiries already on logistics from Australia. How are they in terms of permits, in terms of certification, what do they need in order to bring their products here? So I think during this pandemic situation, it is good time to do a lot of groundwork, right? Study, be very gather as much data as possible, source the right partners, and I think in terms of the brand, definitely there's a lot of room for opportunities. The perception of Malaysian towards the Australian brands are premium. They are good quality. Especially in terms of health supplements, in terms of beauty cosmetics, in terms of daily products, in terms of F&B. So don't wait, I think this is the best time to really come into this market. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to the end of today's proceedings. We're gone over time, but I think it was well worth it because the content was extremely valuable. I'd like to once again thank all of you, our panel of speakers, and our attendees for today. Thank you to our co-organiser, the MABC, and the rest of the supporting partners. I'd like to let all of you know that a recording of this event will be made available on the Global Victoria website in the near future. And I'd invite any of you to reach out to us via the contact details on that website if you want any more information or to follow up on anything you've heard today. Thank you, everyone. Stay well.
Thank you.